And we are to day 27, day countdown to my nephew's wedding in Porto, Portugal. And so, if you watched yesterday's video, my family suddenly they're realizing, oh my gosh, it's less than 4 weeks, and they're starting to call around and trying to figure things out. And so the big thing yesterday is, what the heck is formal festive? And I don't know that we really know. We did a few things, and so I thought that today, based upon some of the stuff we saw online, um, it would be a little bit more formal than this. Like, I don't have my collar buttoned down, and although a lot of those guys in the pictures when they Googled a formal festive, I would say almost 50. The majority probably did have a tie of some kind on, but probably close to 50% had no tie. And the people who did have ties, most of them were like wearing a bow tie. But they were hats, there were parasols, they were wearing shorts, and generally they had a suit jacket and all this stuff. And so I thought, well, maybe, I don't know. So I'm putting this out here for the internet. It's like, tell me if you know what formal festive is. Tell me what it is. And so this hat, I I never feel like I know how to wear a hat. I know that seems simple. It's like, just put it on your head, right? No matter what I do, I look at it and it's like, what is wrong there? It looks like it looks like it's on the wrong way, or maybe my head's too big or too small. I don't know, but I always feel like it looks funny, and it's like, what do I need to do? Does it need to go back? But that doesn't look right. And it's like, does it need to come forward? And that doesn't look right. It's like maybe on the side a little. I don't know. It never looks quite right. But so, and I don't even know honestly that I'm going to take this hat. One of the things about traveling with hats, especially hats like this, you can't really put them in your luggage. They'll get crushed. So you have to carry them with you. And you really can't even put them in the bins. I mean, you almost have to wear them on the plane. And I've actually seen that before with people who do wear a lot of hats. I've seen gentlemen, other people, other men who are traveling with hats, and they might be wearing 3 or 4 hats on top of each other on the plane. So I don't know that I'm taking the hat, but I thought I would just put it out there. If you know what formal festive is, maybe you can enlighten us. Maybe you wouldn't mind sharing that with us in the comments, or letting us know, or maybe you can give us a link, on the internet, and we can look it up a little bit more. But it did again. I mentioned this yesterday. It's like, oh man, I need to really start digging out the clothes again and get an idea of what I need to take. So I was going through my videos last night and this morning, and there was a curious thing. I mean, I always kind of knew that this was sort of a little bit of a fringe idea, and I thought that probably it wouldn't get a lot of people watching it, maybe some. Um, but for the main part, I figured that friends and family would probably be the ones most likely to look at it. But I had a surprise, and that was a lot of people. And when I say a lot, I'm not talking about hundreds or thousands, but quite a few people, a lot more than I really expected. Nearly 50 people watched the video I did about italki. And it does seem, when I'm looking back on it, that one of the things that people who don't know me, who are finding this video, are doing is they're trying to figure out about learning languages. And so for me, I thought I'd talk about learning languages a little bit, and I've done this. In all fairness, I've done this a few times before, but we'll just kind of talk about it. I, it's a hobby for me. I really like learning other languages. I like other cultures. And so I'm not fluent in multiple languages. Well, it depends upon the way you would classify fluency. And it's something I do as a hobby. It's like something I do in my spare time. So it's not like someone who is maybe in a diplomatic corps or in the military or something like that who has intensive language training for several months. That's a whole different story of learning. If you're just kind of doing like me, so I do spend probably 30 minutes is probably an average. Well, 30 minutes is probably a minimum. 30 minutes to an hour every day, I'm spending kind of working on learning languages. And so I thought I would share some of that stuff that we do. There's a whole bunch of different things available. Some of it has to do with what you're learning, what you're doing. I tend to want to do the written parts maybe first, which is kind of backwards, I think, from a lot of people. So, and part of that is that I feel kind of at a loss if I don't really know vocabulary and I don't do it. I just don't. I feel at a loss trying to have a conversation without that. And so I generally start with like the written and the reading parts. I mean, so a lot of these things, they do all. If you think about it, there's really four things that we have to learn. You have to read, you have to write, you have to speak, and you have to listen. So it's really four different things. Now, there are a lot of people that maybe only they kind of cut that in half, meaning I have met people like this. I don't know that I can say this in general, but I have been told that like one of the things about Cubans is they say that Cuba has an excellent educational system, and that a lot of Cubans understand English. But I've met a number of Cubans, and a lot of them can read and they can write in English, but they don't understand English and they can't really speak English. So you might have that kind of that split between written and spoken, where some people may learn to read and write, but they don't learn to speak or hear. And other people, I think this is probably more common. A lot of people will learn to speak and hear, but they never really learn to read or write. Um, I tend to start with the reading and writing. And then after I begin to feel a little more comfortable in my vocabulary and stuff, then I start to really try to work more on the conversational part. But there's all these tools, and you just kind of have to start exploring it a little bit. I mentioned italki, and that's the video that got a lot of things. Italki is a website that it helps you connect with tutors or instructors. And so, like I mentioned, Adriano is amazing, by the way. But Adriano, he lives in Brazil and he teaches full time. He teaches full time through italki, and for Americans, it's quite inexpensive. I mean, he charges about $12 an hour. He'll do a half hour if you want to. A half hour is $10. But he is really great. But they all kind of set their own price, so it can be, $10 or it can be $20 or more. There are some people that charge more than that, and I think it depends upon where they live and that kind of stuff. But that's a really good tool to have in your arsenal. YouTube has a lot. There are a bunch of videos. There are podcasts. There are instructors. One series that I really like is the Easy Languages series. It started out with Easy German. They have Easy Spanish, Easy Portuguese, Easy Russian. I mean, there's a whole bunch of them. And then there's some individual guys who do some stuff, and they are really great. If you want to look on YouTube, that's a really good resource as well. I use Duolingo. I do Duolingo pretty much every day. And I will say, the thing I like about Duolingo is it's organized like a video game. And so each of the exercises is usually just a few minutes long. They usually take 2 to 5 minutes to do each one of the exercises. And so that's something that's real convenient. You don't have to be like tied up for an hour or so to do it. You can just kind of do it now and then. I will say you probably will not get fluent using Duolingo. You'll learn a lot and you can build your vocabulary, you can do that stuff, but you're probably going to need some other things. Other stuff you can do is like on Netflix. Netflix has a ton of different content in different languages, and so you can watch a programs in another language with subtitles. And so there's two little tricks with that. So one is you can do it in other languages with English subtitles, but a really kind of better trick, once you learn a little bit of vocabulary, it's good to do it in another language with subtitles in that language. So if I were watching something in French, I would watch it with French, the original language, so that all the dialogue is in French, but then the subtitles are also in French. And that really does sort of help your comprehension as you're kind of learning things. So Netflix is a good thing. Another thing you can do is look for music. That's can be a little bit harder. It depends upon the language and everything else. I know that many years ago when I was trying to get better at Spanish, I thought I'm going to try to find some Spanish music to listen to, and I can listen to it in the car or things like that. And but I didn't know where to begin. And so with Spanish music, we have the Latin Grammys. And so I watched the Latin Grammys to listen to some of the people, and I listened to music I kind of liked because I really felt like I wouldn't listen to it if it wasn't music that I liked. And so I found 3 or 4 artists that I really liked, and I started getting some of their music, and I would listen to it in the car and things. And I will say that when you're doing those kind of exercises, um, initially the first, I don't know how many times, just over and over, you can't really make anything out. You can hear it, but it is funny when the more you listen to it, the more you begin to be able to kind of pull out words. And it's like, oh, okay, I get that now, and that's a really good trick. And then of course there are, you can check. I don't really use Meetup a whole lot anymore, but Meetup is a kind of a, if you're not familiar with Meetup, Meetup is a I don't know what to call it. It's like a social media kind of things to set up meetings with other people who have similar interests. So you can find other people who maybe are language learners, or like a Spanish language group or a French language group, and you can find people kind of in your area. Some of these are online, some of them are in person, and you can join those groups, and then you can talk with other people and do things online. And of course, we have Zoom and we have all of these other things that you can use as well. So there's a whole bunch of different things you can do to learn languages. And some of it also, repetition is part of it. And getting comfortable, part of it is you have to get, and this is not easy to do, especially with a new language, but getting comfortable talking with other people, being willing to do that, and understand that you are not going to get it right, but you have to kind of get there and rely on other people to kind of help you do that. So those are all things that you can do. So what I've been doing with Portuguese, and I've mentioned this before, I speak a little Portuguese. I would not say that I'm fluent at all. There's a scale, if you're not familiar with that it's like an international scale. It's like A1, A2, B1, B2, C1, C2, that has to do with fluency. And kind of A1 is sort of at the beginning, and so like C2 is sort of like advanced. And so I would say that in Portuguese, if I had to guess, I would probably say I'm A2 to maybe B1 in terms of my abilities there. So I'm not fluent really at all, but I'm also not a beginner really. And so I can have simple conversations with people. And so, so what I'm doing right now, because I have some background in it, that's why I wanted to do the stuff with Adriano, is I wanted to get a little practice speaking again. I will say it's very rusty. I'm having to dust off a lot of vocabulary. I see it and I think, oh yeah, I remember that now. And I'm having to dust that off. And one of the other things, like there's like a 90% vocabulary transfer rate between Portuguese and Spanish, which in some ways is really good. I speak Spanish pretty well. Um, but it's also kind of bad. So the good thing is that if I don't know a Portuguese word, there's probably a 90% chance that there's a Spanish word I can use that they would understand. But the bad part about that is that, like, if I'm doing Spanish, lots of times I think I'm speaking Portuguese, but I'm actually speaking Spanish. So you have to kind of work about that. So that's some of the stuff on learning languages and kind of what I'm doing. So I've run way long today, so I'm going to finish up there, and we're going to do our Portuguese phrase or word for the day, and we're going to say é mesmo, and it's like like an e, mesmo, mesmo, é mesmo. And it literally means and the same, and the same. But what it means is, really? Are you, I mean, kind of like, really? And so it's so é mesmo. So we're learning. So the things that the ones I want you guys to remember, all right, which I'm trying to remember too. Fala serio. Fala serio. It means be real. Come on. Be, be. That's crazy. Fala serio. That's crazy. That's kind of what that means. Pra caramba, which kind of means, like, oh, really. It's a way to make things like over the top. Like, oh man, what would be a good thing? We'll look for an example here. Boa pra caramba, which means that is amazing. Boa means good, and pra caramba means, really, really good. Kind of like really, really. Add it to the end there. So, and then the last one, é mesmo. It's like, really? É mesmo. So those are things. Learn those three, and you should just throw them into your conversation. Just start throwing it in. And if somebody's like, what in the world are you saying? You say, just tell them, say, I speak a little Portuguese. And that's the truth, because you do. You know a few words, you know a few phrases. So it's not a lie. It's not a lie to say that. So just throw that in there from time to time. And that's it for day 27. Have some things coming up I got to figure out. I've mentioned that before in other videos where I'm going to be traveling some. So I don't know exactly how we're going to do the videos, but we'll get it figured out. And that's it for today. Have a great day. And maybe I'll see you tomorrow. Take care, everybody. Bye.